Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going away from the beer and straight to the rock with a brand new album review of Extreme's number 6. But what's it going to be like? Should you be adding it to your rock collection? Keep on watching to find out. It's been a while, but we are back reviewing good hard rock and heavy metal music. And we're kicking off this new summer of music reviews with the first of 4 recently released albums. Starting today with the most recent, it came out last week, releases by the rock band Extreme. This album is called 6 because it is, like the title says, their 6th album. I mean, when you think about it, it's a little bit lazy for a band that sort of, I think they were actually, they came together in something like 85 or 86. I think the first album was 88 or 89. So 6 albums for, the best part of 35 years is a little bit slow going. But this is really a bit of a comeback for Extreme. Out of nowhere, a few months ago, we were treated, I suppose you could say, to a couple of new songs. 3 new songs were released by them in quick succession. The songs were called Rise, #Rebel and Banshee. And these are in fact the first 3 songs that make up this new album. If you haven't heard them already, then where have you been? The first track, Rise, which they released, and his first track on the album, is a really great opening track in my opinion. It's a real hard rocking. The first time I heard it though, I thought that it reminded me, sort of Gary Strone singing, some of his phrasing and his vocals were very much reminiscent of someone like Scott Weiland in the way that he sings in Stone Temple Pilots, and to some extent Velvet Revolver. Especially the song, I think it's the song on the Purple album by Stone Temple Pilots, Silver Gun's Superman. It's got, this going back to the track Rise though, it's got a real sort of modern, hard-hitting rock sound. It sounds very current, and yet even though there's a little bit of throwback to sort of like hard rock of the 80s, and also obviously the sort of grunge of the sort of early to mid-90s. A lot of people have been talking about it, and it's definitely worth listening to. But on this track, there's an amazing guitar solo by Nuno Bettencourt. In fact, the whole album and his playing on it has really brought back this sort of guitar hero, which we have been missing for so many years. I think since the sort of death of Eddie Van Halen, everyone was wondering who's going to really take on the stage as being the great guitar hero. And I think Nuno is certainly up for the challenge. The next song on the album, #Rebel, is again another hard rocking song. It's got a bit more of a punky element, a little bit more edge to it, and again a really great solo. Some really great sort of backing vocals in here, sort of like sing along stuff. Certainly a lot of this album will see both vocals by Gary and Nuno, and that's a real sort of big thing for Extreme. Next track, track 3, is Banshee, the last of the ones that was released quickly together. Similarly to those first 2, it keeps up the energy. It's another hard-rocking, quite fast-moving song. And after you've listened to these 3 songs, you'd be thinking, well, can they keep up the energy? And probably a good reason that they don't. We get a slightly softer... I wouldn't call it a ballad, but the song Other Side of the Rainbow certainly slows things down quite considerably. It's a little bit more of a sing-along sort of song. It's slower, it's catchy. It's a little bit more of a semi-ballad, maybe more like something along the lines of Wholehearted from the Porn and Graffiti album. But this has got, I'll say it once, you probably hear me say it a number of times, but it's a great solo by Nuno. It's probably one of his best solo, even though it's a little bit more understated than the one on the Rise. The next track, track 5, is a proper ballad this time. It's called Small Town Beautiful. It's a little soppy. Yeah, a bit of more than words in there, a little bit more of that sort of stuff that you'd expect from Extreme, when they were the most commercial. It doesn't blow me away as a ballad, but after those sort of big 3 hitting songs, it's good to get something a bit softer, and something a bit is what you really need, really, just to sort of change it up a bit. But then after that, we get back to the rocking stuff. The next two songs really get into that sort of hard rocking vibe. Starting with The Mask. Here they're bringing a little bit more of the funk that that they're well known for into the track. It's got a little bit more to it. It's got a little bit more than just straightforward sort of hard rock. There's a little bit of industrial sort of sounds in it. The sort of vocals are different. It's got that sort of start-stop sort of vocals. Again, remind me a little bit of Scott Weiland, how he sings, especially in Velvet Revolver. It's a great song though, and it's another favourite of mine. Then we got Thicker Than Blood. It sort of pushes what they did on The Mask a little bit further, really. So there's a little bit more of that industrial, a little bit more. It's a bit faster though, and it brings a slightly more of a sort of almost like audio slave sound to it. So we're very much hitting a very sort of, even though we're in the mid-90s, there's something modern sounding about this song. It even gets to the point where it's a little bit Rage Against the Machine, and it's sort of vengeance vocal sort of lines, really. It's not really what you'd expect from a band like Extreme, but they're putting their own spin on it, and to be honest, it really does work. It doesn't sound conceited in any way. The next song, though, they go really grungy, I think. We've got a real heavy, sort of chunky, slow riff, very much sounding like something that Alice in Chains would do, their sort of sound. In fact, there's a lot of sort of vocals that are similar to Lane Stanley here, and even when the chorus kicks in on this song, you almost think sounds a bit like Man in the Box. However, it's still a really good track, and it shows that, as much as you wouldn't really expect it, they're trying new stuff and it actually works, and I think that's much to be applauded. Track, what we're up to now, track number 9 is called Hurricane, and with a title like Hurricane, you're expecting something big and bombast and a big hard rocking track, but they take a left turn again, and this is where Nuno and Gary are sort of channeling their sort of innermost Simon and Garfunkel. It's a really good track, but it's all acoustic. There's lots of sort of interplay with the vocals and the harmonies in this song, and you sort of can visualise them either sitting on stools on the stage with their acoustic guitars, or sitting around a campfire singing this song. It's great again that they've changed up the album. Just when you think you're getting a new sort of vibe on sound, you go from the hard rock to the sort of ballads, then to a little bit of an industrial grungy sound, and now we're getting this very different track that sort of gets you excited to think about what comes next. Yes, it's acoustic, but it's I think out of the sort of slower paced songs, it's probably the best of them on the album. But then the next track, which I'm probably say at this point in time is my favourite track, it's called X Out, and it brings a slightly different sound again. There's a little bit more of that industrial sound in here, but there's also lots of synthesizers in here, which is not something you hear on any other tracks. It's got a slight sort of 80s vibe to it. It's just a really different and well put together track, and it sounds like nothing else on the album. This is one track that sort of stands on its own, but at the same time it doesn't stand out from the album, but it just goes in a slightly different direction and shows they're not repeating themselves at all or from track to track. Next we've got track 11, the sort of penultimate track here, and this is a song called Beautiful Girls. It's, to me, when I first heard it, I thought, listening to the lyrics, it's a bit like a reworking of California Girls by the Beach Boys, but more like the sort of David Lee Roth version of that song. This song, Beautiful Girls, sounds like it can almost be sung by David Lee Roth. It's got that sort of Van Halen sort of calypso, summer, beach island sort of vibe. It's very sort of breezy. The lyrics are a little bit sort of naff, if I'm being completely honest, and to some extent it's so breezy it sort of almost gets to the point where you can imagine a boy band singing it. For me, this is probably the worst track on the album, but if you like that sort of sound of that and the slower paced and the sort of very summery song, then you might really like it. The final track, which ends the album, is called Here to the Losers. Again, it's slightly softer when it starts out. It's got more of a sort of a jangly sort of guitar playing on it. And, it reminds me a little bit of the sort of a semi-ballad from Pornography, Wholehearted. It's one of those sort of songs it doesn't quite do what I expect from the last song on an album to do. It's got a bit of the Queen vibe. We know Extreme are heavily influenced by Queen. It's also got a bit of the Hey Jude by the Beatles in it. There's a very strong Beatles sort of sound with this song, certainly late era Beatles. With the crowd backing vocals in there, and it's a very sort of much an anthem where they expect people to sing along to it. It's not really doing much for me at the moment, but I'd be interested to see how they do this song when they play it in a sort of live setting, because I can see the sort of audience participation, and it could end up being a real sort of rousing sort of end of the show sort of song. Maybe this song will grow on me the more that I listen to it, but the jury's out really. And that ends the album. I mean, because we've got so many different types of songs in here, there's not sort of one big sort of sound throughout the whole album. It's so varied that you want to listen to it again and you're thinking, I'm going to pick up different things and the more I listen to it. And that is true. Yeah, those sort of early first three songs, I'll get to the point where I'm starting to overhear them a little bit. But some of the other stuff, they get more and more out of them the more that you listen to it. I do like the fact that they haven't really played it too safe and literally recreated their big album Pornography. I don't know much about some of their sort of later albums. I haven't really listened to them as they've come out. But certainly, with these sort of tracks here, the ones that they've released, it's a very varied album, but I still think that fans of Extreme will really like it. I don't think it goes too far off like what they did from Pornography to Free Sides, where that sort of brought in a lot of different styles as well, but they just were a little bit too far into that style. So there was on that, there was rapping, there was more funk, and they even went into sort of more progressive rock sort of sound. And for a band like Extreme, I don't think it quite worked. It was a little bit overblown, their third album, and I think they've, as much as they've done different things on this album, it's a much more concise. They haven't they've pushed out, but they've held themselves back, so they haven't gone too far. They're still very much an Extreme album, and I think a lot of people are going to really like this album. And for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play this live. I'm going to see them live at the end of the year. I think they'll play quite a lot of songs from this album, because there's certainly a lot of these songs that you can imagine them playing in a live setting. It's got that sort of energy that really would translate well live. So that is my review of Extreme's album 7. No, not album 7, number 6. I'm already one step ahead of myself. So the next album that I'm going to be reviewing is Winger 7. So another band this one came out before the Extreme one, but it's another band that decided to call their album, because it's been a while, this album of the number album that they are. So they're up to number 7. Extreme, this is number 6. And I think it's a good resurgent album, this one from Extreme. And definitely, if you like hard rock, if you were a big fan of Pornography when it came out in the sort of early 90s, I think it was 1991 or something like that. If you're a big fan of them, then I think you're going to really like this album. If you like hard rock music, you like bands that bring the guitar solo into their stuff but not overblown, then I think you'll really like it. It's a really good album and it's highly recommended. So, as I said, the next album out of these sort of 4 that I've literally written all the reviews for, is going to be Winger and their album number 7. I think it's another good album, but you'll have to wait and see what the review is. After Extreme, I'm going to be reviewing the new Foo Fighters album that's only just been released as well, and then after that I'm reviewing the latest album by a band called Crownlands. They're not getting much press at the moment, but if you're a big fan of Rush, both their 70s and 80s sort of sounds, then I think you're going to really like Crownlands. So keep a watch out for that. So, hope you like this review of Extreme 6. We've got, as I said, we've got more reviews coming up. We've just outlined the ones that we've got. I'm also going to be doing some album ranking from albums. So I'm going to do the album rankings of Alter Bridge. I'm also going to probably do Foo Fighters as well, because I think it's about time. And I think it's about time to do Winger as well, now they've hit the 7 albums. Going to do that. And then the other thing that I'm going to be doing some more of is my top 10 tracks from some of my favourite artists. And starting with that, I'm going to be doing Rush, which, to be honest, is a really difficult one to pick just 10 songs from one artist. But we've got that one coming up as well. So there's lots of music coming, which is sort of kick-starting the sort of summer of music. I've neglected a bit because I've been so busy with other things going on. So to do music reviews takes a lot more planning. I like to sort of really get underneath the skin of the music and really sort of write down all my thoughts and sort of bring it together into a sort of more concise review. And so that's what we're going to be kicking off with. There's some more music stuff coming that isn't like the stuff that I've done before. I'm not going to say too much about that just yet, but it's going to be a little bit different, and I hope that you all contribute. So let me know, is there any recent albums that you've bought and you thought, yeah, I'd love to hear a review of it? Are there any albums that you think, yeah, more people need to know about it? And let me know in the comments. And of course, let me know what you think of Extreme 6. If you've already got it, already listened to it, then please let me know what you think. What's your favourite track on there? Am I right in some of the sort of comments I've made about each of the songs? So I hope you've enjoyed it, and until the next one, please like and subscribe, because it really helps the channel. And obviously, if you subscribe, you'll get notified as soon as these new reviews drop. And all there else is to say is drink good craft beer, listen to good rock music, and keep on rocking.